listening to the Blue Raider Podcast, presented by Gold's Gym of Tennessee. Your all-access pass to everything Middle Tennessee sports, game recaps, player spotlights, and the latest from the heart of Blue Raider Nation. Now, here's your host, Jay Golden.
Welcome back to another episode of the Blue Raider Podcast presented by Gold's Gym of Tennessee, and welcome to you, the listener, for Season 3. I'm super excited about how we're going to lay out this season for you. As you're listening today on our normal upload Tuesdays, we will be doing previews for the upcoming Saturday matchup. Today in particular, obviously talking about that home opener against Austin Peay with one of our colleagues, Shayne Pickering, give you all the lowdown on what to expect from the Governors this week. And then look forward to the Friday episode where we'll be doing a behind enemy line segment with someone from Austin Peay's media to learn a little bit more in depth about the Governors ahead of that game on Saturday. And then, since it is a home opener, I want to live stream to you guys the press conference, followed by some more post-game reactions from myself and Shayne as well. So keep your eyes tuned for that on Saturday after that football game. And of course, so you don't miss it, make sure you're following us on all of our social medias. That's TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. And of course, if you're listening to us on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button because that live stream will be on YouTube and X. But before we get into today's episode, let's thank our sponsor. Before we get into the episode, I need to thank our sponsor. Gold's Gym has been the mecca of fitness since 1965, and to celebrate their 60-year anniversary right now, you can get a month-to-month membership for just $19.65 bi-weekly. That's no commitment, full access to all 16 Gold's Gym Tennessee locations, and top-tier equipment to help you level up your fitness no matter your sport. But here's the deal. This offer is only available online, and it ends when the summer does, so don't wait. Go to goldsgym.com and lock it in today. Gold's Gym Tennessee. Train like a legend, no strings attached. Now, let's get back to the episode. Now, joining us in today's episode, it is our friend and colleague over at gomiddle.com. It is Shayne Pickering. Shayne, thanks for joining us once again.
Yes, sir. I'm excited for football season. It's finally here.
Absolutely. We were there at fall camp not too long ago, got to kind of see everyone in person, but it's here. It feels palpable to this point. Today's episode, we're going to be breaking down everything there is to know about this upcoming game. I know one thing is, before we get into this, I'd like to give you an opportunity to plug some of the positional breakdowns that I know you and Connor are working on. You know, what's kind of that release schedule going through this last week?
Yeah, Connor's mainly been handling it. I did the running backs, but that was it. So it should be going throughout this week and be done before the season opener.
Absolutely. They're going through all the positions. So, of course, if you want more in-depth knowledge about the depth of those position groups, let alone the starters, that is your place to check that out. But let's get into it. Preview, Week 1, Blue Raiders against Austin Peay, Year 2 under the Derek Mason era, a little bit behind this kickoff. It is Saturday at 6 p.m. on ESPN+. Of course, if you're listening, I hope you have your ticket. I know they're selling $20 end zone tickets. Basically, you're buying a shirt and your seat is for free. The other plus side, the weather looks good, unlike last year's season opener where we had what was a 2-3 hour lightning delay and we were there until midnight. But as of now, when we were recording this, the weather does look clear. So I look forward to seeing all the Blue Raider fans there in Floyd Stadium to kick off this second season under the Derek Mason era. MTSU holds the all-time record, 38-12-2, 20-7-1 in Floyd Stadium to be specific. The Blue Raiders have won 12 straight games against the Governors, dating all the way back to 1987 when they were OVC opponents. But since leaving the OVC in 98, the Blue Raiders have only played the Governors one time. That was in 2010 when the Blue Raiders defeated AP 56-33. If you remember back to that 2010 season, the Blue Raiders went to the GoDaddy.com Bowl down in Mobile, played Miami of Ohio Redhawks, and lost down there. But all that to say, this is kind of a familiar foe for those that are longtime Blue Raider fans, but this is a renewed rivalry to those people. Obviously, to those of us that have followed MTSU into their Division I years, this isn't much of a rivalry, but there's still a little bit of local happenings here because you have a lot of kids that have played against one another, some kids that a lot of us here in Murfreesboro are very familiar with. Some of those names I want to bring up is like Chris Parsons, who I believe is going to be the starting quarterback for the Governors. He was at Ravenwood High School. He committed to Mississippi State, and now he's transferred in for Coach Ferris up in Clarksville. That's a name that I'm pretty excited about. Shayne, there's some guys there. I know that you also do a lot of coverage with Tennessee, guys like Walker Merrill, who went to Brentwood High School. You got Nate Spillman, another wide receiver from Lipscomb Academy. There's just so much implication, I guess, from even a recruiting standpoint in this game on Saturday.
Absolutely. There's a lot of, even Jeff Ferris, the head coach, is from Tennessee, I'm pretty sure. So there's just a lot of familiarity with both programs, with the state. And there probably will be a lot of people there in the recruiting aspect just to get a feel for the program. So, yeah, overall, I think it's going to be a big game for the local middle Tennessee mid-state.
Conseco Group has been transforming visions into reality since 1987. Known for making the impossible possible, they specialize in pre-construction consulting, construction management, design build, and renovations. With a hands-on, client-focused approach, Conseco Group consistently delivers high-quality results while maximizing investment. Based in Nashville and trusted across Middle Tennessee, their reach spans the entire Southeast. Conseco Group, building excellence one project at a time. Learn more at consecogroup.com or call 615-298-9907. Absolutely. Talking there about Coach Jeff Ferris, obviously his second season there in Clarksville, replacing Scotty Walden, who took the job in El Paso. His first year there as head coach, they went 4-8. Coach Ferris, actually, this is his first head coaching job. He had a long-time tenure at Duke and UCLA as an offensive assistant. I think he had 1 year as an actual OC there in Durham for the Blue Devils. But I guess most importantly, he was a tight ends coach with Chip Kelly at UCLA before taking the job there at Austin Peay. So if you have any sort of implication there with Chip Kelly, he's going to have a good offense. I would surely hope he's going to test the Blue Raiders secondary, especially with a quarterback like Chris Parsons, who had SEC offers coming out of high school.
Yeah, it's going to be a high-flying offense. Everywhere Chris Parsons has been a gunslinging mentality. So it's definitely going to be – the ball's going to be in the air a lot, and the secondary for MTSU is going to have to hold up this year like they did not last year.
It's interesting, and we'll kind of get to my reflection on their opening game last year. You kind of anticipate this being a blowout, if you will, because the team is not, Austin Peay is not particularly great. They're a part of the United Athletic Conference, kind of a cross of, I consider them the FCS version of Conference USA. There's not necessarily geographic logic to the layout, but Austin Peay going into their preseason poll was picked 6th out of the 9 teams in the UAC this year. If you remember back, Tennessee Tech was kind of in that same realm, if I do remember correctly, in the OVC Big South collaborative effort they had last year. So I don't think this is a game that you should be worried about. Although we kind of got lulled into that trap last year. We kind of saw what happened there. I just think importantly, and as we get into our keys of the game and all that, you just want to see them compete and not really make it a game. I mean, you saw back what they did in 2010. They win by 3 touchdowns. You would hope to think you can kind of get some reminiscence of that again.
Absolutely. That kind of goes into my first key of the game. It's just play clean football. You need to put away the game early in the game. I feel like they came out sloppy last year after the weather delay. They just weren't mentally mature. And this is a team that you should be putting away, especially with all their new parts. Like, this team has 38 returning players. They almost have as many true freshmen on the team as they do returning players. So they're going to be trying to find chemistry. And to be blunt, MTSU is just a far better team. And they need to put this game away early if they're going to be competing in conference play against an entirely new Conference USA. And this is just a game you need to get it over with early and just look like the better team that you are.
Well, let's dig into the keys of the game, but first, let's thank our sponsor of this segment, State Farm agent Trevor Haggard, for insurance coverage that's always on your team. Just like a winning game plan, life is all about preparation. When it comes to protecting what matters most, Trevor Haggard has you covered. From home and auto to life and business insurance, Trevor and his team at State Farm are here to help you plan ahead and stay protected when it counts. With personalized service, dependable coverage, and a local touch you can trust, Trevor Haggard is the go-to name when you need a solid defense on or off the field. Give Trevor a call at 615-203-5522 or stop by the office at 4167 Franklin Road in Murfreesboro, next to the Public in Victory Village, and let him help you create a coverage plan that fits your needs and your budget. Shayne, you kind of introduced one of your keys to the game. Look better, and play clean, you said.
Yeah, I think just playing clean football is going to be the important thing. That means no penalties, no turnovers, just not making any of the mental mistakes that even plagued this team all the way to the end to New Mexico State last year. And then secondly, just look like a better team in comparison to Austin Peay, but just in general as well. Like, you need to have better chemistry. You have better talent. You have better depth this year. That needs to be evident in year 2 under Derek Mason. And a coaching staff that stayed the same outside of special teams coordinator Luke Pascal. This is their team. They built this team, and it needs to be competing for a bowl game, probably a bowl game this year. And this is a game that you just need to go play clean, good football and come out with a big win in this game.
I think that's something we've all kind of been pressing for this offseason, is just shows some implication that you're taking the right steps. I know Mason talked a lot about the disappointment of winning 3 games last year, but you just want to feel like maybe not even winning 4 games is possible, but coming out the gates looking great gives you that opportunity that this team could potentially get to 6. Because I personally feel you're playing an Austin Peay team who is the worst team on your schedule, but you're going to play the likes of other FCS crossovers with Missouri State, Delaware, who I think Delaware is probably a little bit more ahead of the game than Missouri State is. But you have games like that with first-time head coaches who are going to have pieced together rosters that you've got to just take advantage of it and make the fan base feel like there's something to cheer for this year in this first one. But my keys: establish the run. In the 4 games last year, no mystery, the Raiders rushed for over 100 yards 4 times. Hard to believe that is the worst in Conference USA, I'm sure, but it is. They rushed for 118 last year against Tennessee Tech. They barely averaged over 3.5 yards per carry. Again, that's a huge concern, all things considered, against Tennessee Tech, who end up having one of the better defenses in FCS last year, surprised a lot of us. So maybe you can look at that game and think, well, we beat a good FCS team. But in the grand scheme of it, I just think you should look better in those types of ball games, because in this one in particular on Saturday, Austin Peay from 2024 was one of the worst rush defenses, giving up over 160 yards per game last year in the FCS. They're only out of FCS level was a top 10 against Georgia. So you've got to just be able to establish that run, something you weren't able to do at all last year. Again, feel better about it. You've got a good running back stable here. So I hope that they can kind of show that dominating force that they can be, because that's what we've heard a lot about. And a lot of that comes from the offensive line. And we'll talk more about them later. But my second key to the game, offensive consistency. Again, I draw back to that Tennessee Tech game as a lot of what was right and what was wrong with that team last year. If you remember back, they started that game scoring 3 touchdowns and 3 straight drives. They started the game off as good as you could start it on the offensive side of the ball. And then they had a safety and didn't score a touchdown for the remainder of the game until their final offensive drive. So I understand, you can make the excuse that there was a lightning delay in there, but I still think that fact stands that I want to say they got through the whole first half, and they didn't even, and I know they had a turnover on downs in Tennessee Tech's territory, but there was no offensive consistency. And really you could extrapolate that out to the whole season last year. But in a game like this, again, talk about being a dominating force, just have that offensive consistency. I'm not saying you need to score every drive, but being able to at least get past the 50-yard line, something that, again, they struggled with in that entire second half against Tennessee Tech. So whatever adjustments they made must have been great, but I think that this is, again, an advantageous game for the Raiders to really get their offensive feet underneath themselves. But lastly here, X Factor. Who's your X Factor for this game, Shayne?
I think Hunter Tipton. I think he's going to be a security blanket for Nick Vattiato this season. I think when you think of Holden Willis, you're thinking of a jumbo receiver. When you look at Hunter Tipton, he's your traditional tight end. He can block in line or in space. He can catch the ball. He can do some stuff with it afterwards in the flat. And it's just going to be a nice little piece of the puzzle that's going to help Nick Vattiato feel more comfortable, more protected, because, like I said, he can line up next to the tackle and block. And I just think for this offense to reach its potential this year, Hunter Tipton will be a big reason why if it does. And this will just be a good game to get him started, get him going. In a strong tight end room, he definitely leads the group to me.
And Hunter Tipton, too, making a watch list if I do. The Earl Campbell, Tyler Rose Award watch list for best tight end. Yeah, so that was a surprise to me. I know that he's the Louisiana Tech transfer that a lot of us had our eyes on, but him and Tavion, I guess I'm looking more for insight from you here. Should we expect snaps at tight end outside of Hunter?
Yeah, they definitely want to rotate. Tipton is your more all-around guy, like I said. Tavion Galloway adds that flex tight end receiving element and that high-level potential. Being a former four-star that chose Purdue over the likes of SEC programs. And then Evan Potiker is going to find ways on the field with his blocking. And Brody Banky he was a big-time recruit that this staff got. He redshirted last year. I think he's going to find ways to rotate in. He's another guy that can do a lot of everything.
Excited to really see what Hunter Tempted does, as well as Tavion too. I think that's a good 1-2 punch. Kind of again, guys that add that versatility. I don't know that they'll be as good as what we've had, but it's still, I think they'll be able to utilize them well. My X factor for this game, I know the task was to pick one particular player that would be an X factor for the Blue Raiders this Saturday, and I thought to myself, well, I talked about the run, maybe it'd be Jaquil or one of those backup running backs to kind of alleviate some of that pressure that Jaquil is obviously going to feel. Is it going to be one of these new wide receivers to be a good target for Vadiato? But I think altogether it's got to be the offensive line. Something that we talked about all offseason is that's where they had to make their improvement. I know the big story circulating is the amount of money that they're saving with the jerseys. How are they going to utilize that money? And my understanding is it was exclusively put into building a stronger team in the trenches. And, guys like Jacob Otts, definitely someone who we're really excited about it being a left tackle, EJ Harris. We still don't necessarily know what the right side of the line will potentially look like. Marcus Miller, Mateo Guevara, that your interior is pretty much set. It's that right tackle spot that, I'm anticipating Zach Clayton coming out there. But as Reader told us at fall camp, that may not be the case. But X factor altogether, I don't think it matters who they throw out there. Well, maybe let me take a step back. It does matter who they throw out there. But I do think a collective unit of 5 guys that they have against Austin Peay in particular, I think they should have a good game, and that's why I think they are the X factor, because if they are having a good game, I think this offense kind of gets their wings, something that they didn't have all last year, and I think we all thought they were hamstringed by that offensive line, but this year they feel very comfortable about the unit that they put together. So all things considered, the offensive line is going to be the X factor for me. And again, thanks to Trevor Haggard at State Farm for sponsoring the Keys to the Game and X Factor for today's episode. Lastly, we break down a little bit about the game itself, scoring predictions. Last year, the Raiders had to go on a game-winning drive in the fourth quarter at 11:30 at night to take down the Golden Eagles, but I feel pretty comfortable about this one that I think we're going to see a much more comfortable, larger margin. Shayne, you share the same sentiment?
Yeah, I do.
Tell me a little bit. For me, I've got this game around that 42-7 mark. I don't know if like I said, there's no line, at least at the time of the recording this. I'm sure Vegas, some degenerates out there somewhere will be gambling on this game, but I like to think you're a 5-touchdown favorite.
Yeah, my score prediction would probably be around 34-10, somewhere in that category.
I feel, again, we haven't seen them score that many points all last year. That would be kind of the bigger surprise. I guess, do you think the offense is in a situation where they might perform? Are we looking for the offense to kind of shine? Or are we looking for a really stout defense, something, again, that we didn't see very much of last year either?
I think a little bit of both, to be honest with you. I think because you didn't really add to the defensive line, so that's going to be like you need those guys, those young guys especially, like Anthony Bynum, like Shakai Woods, even a true freshman like Archie Roseman. You need those guys to step up. And if they can step up, like I'm bullish on the cornerbacks that they have this year. So if the defensive line can step up with the linebackers they have, like the defense can be all right. And like you said, if the offensive line is being that impact piece and playing as one, then I think like the overall team is a lot better this year. And I think if they can play a little more balanced than last year, where they had to rely on Omari Kelly and Holden Willis to outscore the other team at times.
For another side question here, over under 1.5 drives, Roman Gagliano is going to start the drive. I'm banking on them having a steady lead in that second half. You think they give Roman the opportunity to lead the offense for a couple drives in the second half?
You said 1.5?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go over because I think it will be 2.
Okay, that was where my head was at. I was like, is there a world where they only send him out for 1 at the end? I think Nick, at some point, you got to give him the rest again if the game gets out of hand. But that's exciting. On the defensive side, I know we talked a lot about the offense, and in particular, I want to share some love to that defense. You talked about the line and some of those depth pieces in the secondary. As someone that is going through these positional breakdowns. On the secondary, who are we looking at? I know Brendan Harris is one that I've talked a lot about. John House has gotten a lot of national recognition. I know someone that you're kind of high on is Gaston, the Houston transfer. What are some names that you think Raider fans should be keeping an eye out on that defensive secondary?
I think Diari McDonald's back at cornerback, obviously, but I think Jordan Chestnut is a guy that everyone that keeps up with MTSU, Conference USA, they need to know. He's a 6'4", if I remember correctly, 6'3", 6'4", cornerback who he's not just a big cornerback. He's a cornerback that is big, and he can match anyone inside, outside. He has the speed, athleticism, explosiveness, change of direction, everything you want in a cornerback. To be honest with you, I don't know how he went Division II. And, Derek Mason's had a ton of success with longer corners, whether it's Joe John Williams or other guys at Vanderbilt. And that's a guy I think by the end of the year will probably be your best cornerback. And that's the reason why I'm bullish on the cornerback room, is because I think Jordan Chestnut is in store for a big year, and you can leave him on an island leave him on an island this year, whereas last year you just could not leave any of your cornerbacks on an island. And then, I think Juwan Gaston, I think his versatility is going to be the biggest thing because he can play safety. He can play in the slot. When you lost James Mons last year, you're going to need someone who has that slot versatility, and Gaston is talented and can play that role.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up McDonald too, returning. He was kind of a guy that didn't see a full season because of a hamstring injury, but getting him back certainly had its impact in that Kennesaw State game. And so him, along with Chestnut, I think is a good defensive backfield. I guess it sounds like you think Gaston's going to get that nickel spot.
I think so, until – I hate to say it like this, but Brendan Harris has to stay healthy. And if Harris goes down – Gaston would probably move to that safety spot, but they did add depth there with Kalen Woods, obviously with Juwan Gaston. Jared Douglas played a lot last year, so they do have options, but I think the best case scenario is Juwan Gaston is lining up in the slot for you against the tougher part of your schedule.
Absolutely. Well, that is Shayne Pickering. Once again, we're kickoff. This is going to be this Saturday at 6 p.m. at Floyd Stadium. We will be live streaming that press conference with Mason and fellow players that are picked amongst the media staff. So I can't guarantee what players we'll be listening to, but join us after that press conference. Myself and Shayne will be there live at Floyd Stadium to talk post-game reactions. We'll also go back, look over our keys to the game, X factors, see how that all planned out. And of course, that Friday episode before Saturday, we're going to be doing a Behind Enemy Lines with Austin Peay Media to learn a lot more about the Governor. So don't miss that. Follow us on all of our social media accounts. Again, Instagram, TikTok, X. I feel like I'm missing one, but at Blue Raider Pod, and then YouTube at Blue Raider Pod. I appreciate everyone for tuning in. Again, thanks to our sponsors, Gold's Gym Tennessee, Trevor Haggard of State Farm. And until next time, go Blue.